Mm.
A lot of meat left on the bone. The bone.
Yep.
We're
Yep.
sending in their budget sheet, so I just got to get them on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Get them on the calendar. The Christian open up the calendar for after October 5th. We could have, yeah, we could have 6th. Open that bad boy up.
Yep.
Up. What's that weather like over there? Y'all starting to get that fall weather?
Yeah, in the morning and nighttime. It's definitely cold in the morning and the nighttime. It's still a little warm during the afternoon. Like it's still, got up to 80 this week, but that was just after the AM hours when it got into the afternoon. But yeah, it's like 40s and 50s early in the morning and late at night.
Oh man, that's good sweater weather, brother. I'll take me some 50, 60 degree weather right now. New York heartbeat.
Yeah.
New York
All right.
heartbeat.
Well, I'm gonna just go ahead and say good evening to the people. To the people may not be on live yet, but good evening or good morning or good afternoon, because it's it'll be morning, afternoon, and nighttime wherever you are, wherever you are in the country or whatever time you're watching this broadcast. Welcome to another episode of Nick's Knowledge and Notions NQ Science Series, brought to you by the Seven Spheres of Money in Duransburg International. Of course, I'm Nick, and that young-looking, handsome guy over there is DJ the Money Coach. What's up, DJ? How you feeling tonight?
What's going on, Nick? Fired up, man. TGIF. Thank goodness it is Friday.
Yes, indeed.
We're excited. Got some good playoff games watching and all that good stuff. Good weekend coming up here. Getting stretched out and get us a little R&R, baby.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about all of that, because this is just going to be a general free flowing conversation. It's been a hectic, busy week. So my mind's a little cloudy as far as topics go this week. But I definitely talk about some of the things I had going on this week. Third week of school, just finished up. So I'll talk about some of the topics, some of the discussions that we're having in class. Some of the things that we got going on, like DJ just mentioned, the playoff games, and that's how we're going to rock tonight. So this week I just finished up the third week of school. So just some background about my teaching position. So I work in a high school. We mentioned a few times before that I teach English, but I actually teach an interdisciplinary humanities course. So I actually co-teach with the history teacher, and we have freshmen and sophomores. We've had freshmen and sophomores last year, and we have them again this year, and we teach honor students. So for the freshman level history course, my co-teacher is focusing on world history, and then for the sophomores, he's focusing on the first half of U.S. history. So we're talking about pre-colonial America, leading up to maybe about Reconstruction era, Civil War Reconstruction era. That's the cutoff for U.S. History 1. And then on the English side, I'm mostly focused on the skills, those communication skills, teaching kids how to read well, write well, speak, and listen. And we read different type of texts. Of course, we read fiction, short stories, novels, poetry, but you read across the curriculum. So there's reading in every subject that you do. There's reading in history, there's reading in math, science, social studies, health, foreign language. There's reading in all of those subject matters. So oftentimes, when you're in an English language arts class, you will be reading texts that are about science, texts that are about history, texts that are about the social sciences like psychology and sociology and philosophy and things of that nature. So we have a nice little blend of all that going on, along with some current events, so we can give the students an understanding of where we are now and how we got here. Looking at events from a historical perspective and the implications that they have now. So one interesting lesson that we exposed the students to this week was looking at the educational system in Korea. So my co-teacher, he's a Korean and Italian man. So he's also a military child. So he's been a lot of places. So he showed the kids what education is like in Korea, and man, it's way different than it is here. So these kids, they start school about the same time, like first thing in the morning, maybe about 7 o'clock in the morning. But the difference is they're in school until about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
Yeah. So they take breaks throughout. They go to lunch and come back. They go to dinner and come back for the night classes. But they're literally in school all day and all night. We watched a mini documentary of one specific school, and they were showing us a day in the life of these Korean students. And another interesting thing about it is that they're not on any screens until the night classes. So throughout the entire morning and afternoon classes, it's just pen or pencil and paper, and they don't bring out the laptops or the Chromebooks until the night classes. And that definitely speaks volumes about why some of these schools and education systems in these Asian countries and countries in other continents, why they're light years ahead of America in terms of education. Like they take it very seriously. And I also noticed this in a book that I read a few years ago called I think it's called The Smartest Kids in the World or something like that. And it was detailing the top education systems in the world, and the value that they place on the teachers is even completely different from the value that they're placed on in America. The teachers get paid like the athletes in some of these countries. They're like the superstars, the almost the celebrities, almost the wealthiest people in those countries. So it's very interesting to see that dichotomy, that juxtaposition between America and the school systems in other parts of the world. And so these are the students that our kids are competing against. If they're pursuing these STEM careers and these science careers and these IT careers, these are the students that they're competing against. So we want to show our students, videos such as these, so they know what they're up against, and they know not to complain about getting too much work from us, because these kids are literally in school all day and all night. Yeah.
Do they go to school 6 days a week? I know in some countries they go to school 6 days a week. Is that or not because they're going from 7 to 10, so maybe they don't need to go on the weekend.
I don't remember how many days of the week they go to school, but if it's not the same, it must be more than the days that American kids are going to school.
Those kids, I think a lot of those Asian countries they go to school during the summer as well. If I'm not
Right?
mistaken.
Yeah, year round.
Yep. They go in year round and knocking stuff out, and again they're working that muscle. That a repetition of writing, speaking, listening makes them superior. And they're not smarter; they just have working that muscle of them deliberate 10,000 hours
Right.
under the day, and we're more concerned about socializing and media and everything. And getting away from the basically the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. We get back to those, we better compete. But
hmm
a foregone conclusion.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And another interesting difference about America and other countries is that America has a strong emphasis on following your dreams, quote unquote, following your dreams or following your passions. So you might well, think about college. You might have students who might major in a certain subject that they don't necessarily have to attend college to learn, and they end up going into thousands and thousands of dollars of debt, because they're pursuing an interest or a passion. And another thing that you'll notice is that America has a lot more artists. Of course, artists is a broad umbrella. You have music, you have visual, you have performing art, but America has a lot more creativity in artists because uh, collectively, we encourage our youth to follow their passions and do what they're interested in, rather than I guess filling a void of what the world or the country might need in terms of developing new technology and new industries and things of that nature. That's something else that we discussed with the students last year, about that difference. So it's a double-edged sword. Of course, there's benefits and disadvantages from both perspectives, but what I see, which could be helpful is more of a balance, between the two. We don't see You don't see a lot of Renaissance people these days who have multiple talents and or versatility. That's something that I notice these days, as opposed to you know decades and centuries ago. You don't see the person that's a scientist but also a poet, and a musician too. You don't really see much of that. And an athlete, you don't see as much of that now as you did back in the olden days.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, yeah, that's been de-emphasized. I mean, that used to be the primary objective, is to be a well-rounded individual and be, like you said, a Renaissance person with multiple skill sets and multiple interests that you can get below the surface. So I think what you're probably seeing from their perspective, from the Korean side, I'm pretty sure, yeah, it probably had to be from South Korea. One thing they're required, I think, to go to the military as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
A lot of those countries are required to go to the military, serve the military, and then they may still. I know back in the day they used to take a test, an aptitude test, at a very young age, and if you didn't do well, you automatically were put over here in a group as worker bee. If you did well, then you would allocated to the scientific department, and that would be your career, even if you didn't like it. So, and those tests were given at like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years of age. I mean, I have a couple of students on the baseball side that grew up in Malaysia, And they were telling me that, in kindergarten, they were already taking these tests to determine what track your life was going to be on. And you also had to serve in the military as well. And you talk about a ton of pressure. By the time your kid gets to be 5, 6, 7 years of age, if they got to pass this aptitude test, they could have had a bad day and be put down in the lower rung for the rest of their life if they are still in that country. Or, they might got lucky on the test and they put in a category where they have to be, a rocket scientist. That's how it's still mandated over in these, Eastern, countries, and in the Middle East as well, even in Tehran and Iran and stuff like that. I know several people from over there that it's so highly competitive because their countries were so far behind. They didn't have the luxury of sitting up here trying to be socialized. They had to build industry, infrastructure, engineering, so they had to find the best and the brightest minds in order to catch up. But that now has propelled them to way far ahead of our kids because they've gotten away from the discipline and the regimen of training the mind to go through these, tough tasks. And we're way behind unless you are, brought up in almost like a military school system, a highly strict private institution, or a magnet school nowadays. It's very rare that you see that's what is it? Not mandated, but it's a requirement for the kids to go through. And I think they're easing even the requirements on math and science just to graduate to get in some of these lower, institutions of higher learning. Before, man, you couldn't come out of high school without 4 years of science, 4 years of math, 4 years of English. Now you can opt out of a lot of stuff, and that's attributing to the laziness. But I guess on the upside is America is still the most creative, country on the planet because we still have the biggest and best and brightest people in Silicon Valley. But that also is being overtaken by Eastern Indians, and again by Middle Eastern people more than you know. So that's a great conversation. And what's the population percentage, ethnicity of your school? Is it predominantly all Black? Has Hispanics? Any percentage of Caucasians? What's the makeup of your school since you're in the inner city, right?
Right. Yeah. So my particular school is actually quite different from the rest of the schools in the city. So this school has a large Hispanic population. What I mean by Hispanic, specifically Portuguese, Spanish, Brazilian, followed by Dominican, Puerto Rican, Mexican, and a very small percentage of Black students.
Oh wow!
So this is the school is actually located in a predominantly Portuguese community neighborhood.
Oh wow!
Yeah, yes, yeah, which is
Never knew that. Okay.
Yeah. What was that?
What is the name of the school?
Oh, so it's called East Side High School. This is East Side in Newark, New Jersey, not the one that they made the movie about. Okay. Yeah.
Ling Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, that one is Patterson, New Jersey, East Side High School in Patterson. Yeah, that's the one with that has the movie Lean on Me. Yeah.
So with that makeup, then what's the percentage? Then you're probably a very rare percentage of Black teachers in general, then, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, our teaching population is pretty diverse. So we have teachers of all sorts of ethnicities. So of course, you have a lot of teachers with a Hispanic background, but you do have a few Black teachers, a few Asian teachers, a few Indian teachers. So it's a few Caucasian teachers. So it's a good mixture.
English as a second language, or
yeah. So
they call a lot of fresh off the boat type.
Yes, we do. Yes, we have all of that. We have students who've been in the country for less than a year, like literally right off the boat, and they do offer English as a second language courses in which the student who's newly immigrated to America that's all of their classes are ESL, ESL courses, so they'll have bilingual teachers that teach English as a second language across all subject matters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to your teaching, do you have to have any interpreter or anything like that, or all your students speak English well enough to comprehend and articulate with you?
Right. So yeah, all of my students are fluent in English, but their parents, not all of their parents are fluent in English. So when it's time to speak to some of their parents, those are the moments where I need a translator.
The student parent night.
Yeah, that was last night actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was last night. Yeah. So that was different. That was my first virtual, back to school night. And so I don't know how many parents we had all together as an entire school, but personally, I had about 17 parents that I met, or that came into my virtual room.
So with that being said, what type of literature are you having them, or what type of literature does the school have for curriculum for? I mean, is it more internationally based, or what type of authors, poets, and of that nature are part of the curriculum, being the English teacher in general?
Yeah, well, for myself, in our program, you see, I'm the English teacher, but I teach in a special program called the Internship Academy. It's a part of a national model called Big Picture Learning, and we pretty much design our own curriculum. So the largest school has a curriculum, but since we do the co-teaching model, our curriculum is a little bit different. But generally speaking, for the entire school, we have a lot of the classic literature. So they're still teaching a lot of the classic novels and poets that school's been teaching for the past 10, 20, 30.
Sheets and all of that stuff.
Yeah, like the Shakespeare, the George Orwells, the Steinbecks, so it's still teaching a lot of that. Our summer reading assignments, the kids actually read more contemporary novels, so contemporary young adult literature. Our upcoming freshmen, they read a book called The Poet X, which came out a couple years ago, and that's centered around a Dominican main character living in Harlem. Mm-hmm. And our sophomores read a book called Dear Martin, which is loosely centered around the unarmed shooting of Jordan Davis in Florida, and that came out a few years ago. So it's a mixture of contemporary literature and classical literature that English classes have been teaching over the past decades.
So what about incorporation of Black literature other than the one about Martin?
Right.
What about the Langston Hughes? What about the Ralph Ellisons? Of the world, things of that nature. How does that, and what input do you have influence the curriculum as well?
Yeah, well, since I have so much leeway with designing my curriculum, it's pretty much up to myself and my co-teacher. What we want to teach or what we want to read. He'll ask me, what do you want to read this year? So I actually have a lot of leeway when it comes to that. In terms of the broader school, sadly, a lot of times the students won't get exposed to those Black authors until Black History Month.
Well, yeah.
So that's really the reality of the
Alex Haley and Roots type stuff.
Yeah, well, like you mentioned, the Langston Hugheses and
what about Maya Angelou?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So things like that. But I fit it in, whenever I can. So I'm a strong believer that, or I strongly subscribe to the idea that Black people or Black history is American history and world history. So there should be an incorporation of it, no matter the time of the year or the lesson or the unit, because at any given point in history or time, we've had some influence. We were doing something. We were producing some type of literature or doing something in history. So yeah, so it's a part of the regular lessons and curriculum.
I'd be interested to know what is the perception of these students that first come over here and their interaction with you pertaining to what their mindset is around, Black culture and Blackness, because at that age they're getting their education through media, which is definitely not the narrative of our people. So how does that work between you and them when they come into their experience? Because I bet you, from a culture standpoint, they definitely are exploiting Black quote unquote culture. Culture standpoint.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm being presumptive in saying that. So
I mean, that's funny.
to hear your feedback on that. And these kids are what? Ages what? 14 to 18, 19 years of age?
Yeah. Just about, that's about the age range. It's interesting that you asked that and you mentioned that, because we did a lesson on that this past week also, about how American culture impacts the perception of people in other countries. So we focused on television being the primary medium in which other cultures learn about America and how they form stereotypes about the various cultures and races and ethnicities in the country. But it seems like the students that I've worked with, I would say although many of them are new to America, they don't necessarily have the preconceived notions that you think they would have, or maybe it's just the specific students that I've worked with, and it seems like their parents don't either. But all of us are aware, my coworkers, we're aware that there are older folks in that community that have those discriminatory or racist perceptions about Black people, because we hear about the Facebook posts that they post in their community Facebook group about all the racist comments that they make. So those perceptions mostly come from the older generations who are it's ingrained in their mindset after all these years of socialization and indoctrination, more so the older generation than the youth.
Sure. Would you say most of these kids are from multi-generational families where you have grandparents and parents living in the same household, or is it in a higher economic stratosphere with these kids, or do they come from a lower socioeconomic stratosphere? Because the reason why I ask this question is because I remember, when we were going through high school, that people who came here were immersed in our society. They had to learn how to read through like speak and spell and watching television programs. So is that still the same situation where it wasn't nowhere near the type of negativity when I was growing up? There was really some positive, stuff where you could turn on the Cosby Show, Different World, Free 21, Living Single, and get positive images. Then you try to learn how to, speak English. And I had a few friends who were immigrants and stuff like that they would literally watch shows to better improve their English. What is the experience in that regard with you and your students?
All right. Well, to answer the first part of the question, it's a mixture. I would say it's mostly it's mostly working class, but you do have a mixture of, you know, economic levels. As far as the programming and what they're learning from, like us, you know, like I mentioned, we teach honor students. When I first started at that school, I didn't have honors kids. I actually had the complete opposite. I had you know, students who were, you know, a little bit older, you know, under credits, you know, may have been through the juvenile justice system. You know, a lot more Black and Latino, you know, rather than you know, Hispanic students. And you know, so what I noticed about my honor students is that they read, you know, they read a lot more than the average student in the city. You know, they have cell phones and they're on social media and they watch you know, well, maybe not TV, but Netflix. You know, they watch movies, shows, and things like that. But I noticed that they enjoy reading a lot more, and I have a feeling that that's expanded their perception of people, and they, I guess they're not as ignorant as some of the other students may be, because they've been exposed to a broader range of you know, characters and personalities and backgrounds.
What about from a heritage standpoint? Do you find that you see bias and racism inside their groups? Because I know one of the things I used to always see was, you know, Mexicans versus Puerto Ricans.
Oh yeah.
You know, and Portuguese people, you know, versus Brazilian people. How does that unfold in the classroom environment? And then also, do you guys restrict them from having their cell phones?
All right. So for the first part of the question, it's there. From what I understand, there was a lot more tension in that school years prior. So maybe about 10, 15 years ago, there was a lot more segregation, to the point where the students would self-segregate by floor based on, you know, race and ethnicity. I believe there's 4 floors in the building, and they used to actually self-segregate, but it's you know, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. And I'm also learning that students are mixed with multiple ethnicities. So for you know, so it wouldn't make sense or the students are understanding that it wouldn't make sense for them to discriminate against a Puerto Rican student, because that student might have you know, one parent that's Puerto Rican and one parent that's Dominican. So they actually have both going on. And then I also learned that some of my students have, you know, African blood in them also. So they're African with a Hispanic, you know, heritage also. So and at this young age, they have an understanding of their ethnic makeup and their heritage. You know, so I believe that plays a part in
better.
Yeah, right.
Getting along well.
Right. Yeah. And as far as the cell phones, by policy, we're not technically allowed to take their cell phones, because we're not protected, you know, if something happens to their phones. So it's you know, it's teacher discretion, you know, whether they want to collect phones or not. But it's not a school policy, because the school is liable.
Vibrate or something?
Yeah. The students put their phones on vibrate. Of course, we can, you know, we tell the students to put their phones away. See, the phones aren't as much of an issue with the group of kids that we have now as compared to the kids that I had, you know, first when I first started out at that school, or even in my first couple years of teaching, these students were like, openly defiant, like, like, no, I'm not putting my phone away. You're not taking it from me.
I could imagine having that challenge.
Yeah.
In addition to the other crazy stuff you have to deal with, to have that challenge with the technology in their hands all the time, and then the excuse that I got to be able to get in touch with my parents.
Right.
People use an excuse with for COVID and coronavirus when they don't do what they're supposed to do. So man, you're having to wear multiple types of hats in that regard. So that's pretty interesting, man. I tip my cap to you, brother, because there's no way I could ever do that. I mean, I don't have the patience for it, and I definitely don't have the tolerance if there's any insubordination. I mean, I would be
right.
I'd be like, here you go.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, it's gotten easier, over time. So now it's to the point where the kids aren't, the kids aren't even the overwhelming part of the job. It's really the paperwork, the workload and just all the rules that are coming from up top, that causes more anxiety and work than the kids do now.
Does your district require any type of financial literacy courses or anything like that, or business classes or anything? What's the commitment in that line?
Oh man, the financial course is it's a requirement, but it's a very, very minimal requirement. So there's a I think it's called financial. Yeah, I think it's called financial literacy. Might be the name of the course. I think it's financial literacy and economics, but it's a 1 semester course that the students don't take until their senior year. Yeah.
That's something else. You guys have junior achievement. You have anything like that in your high school?
Junior achievement. Yeah, you got to explain that to me. It might go by a different name from what I'm familiar with.
You're not familiar with junior achievement? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that must be something.
So junior achievement is an extracurricular program where professionals that work in the working class world, well, actually in the business sector primarily, they actually come to the schools and teach them, actually how to actually create business, how to look like what it will be to be an attorney, to be an accountant, to be a CEO. And they take a group of people together and they take them for a semester and actually once a month go to these people's jobs. They come in and create projects that they have to put together collectively, and then they get a grade on it to show them what it looks like to be living in the business world. It's called junior achievement. I mean,
oh, okay, all right. Well, sure.
Since the dawn of day.
Okay. Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I didn't even have that in my high school. Junior achievement. Yeah. But we don't have that specifically at the school that I work at. But we are seeing the reemergence of the CTE academies and programs in the district. So CTE meaning career technical education, I believe is the E. So I actually work in one of those academies. So our academy is called the Internship Academy. So our students actually go out on internships. Well, no, all grades, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, all 4 grades get the exposure. Okay. It's just a gradual release type of deal where for the freshmen, they all go out together and their advisors go out with them and they get internship experiences. And then when they become sophomores, juniors, and seniors, they actually get to choose what internship they're interested in. And they actually go out on their own and they have a mentor at that site that teaches them all about the industry and the business. And then they have to do a project. So they think of a problem related to career or that industry, and they design a project around it that they work on throughout the school year. And they do 2 presentations during the school year. They do a midterm presentation and a presentation at the end of the school year, in which they present what they learn to their classmates, their teachers, their mentors are invited, their families are invited to come watch their presentation, and they actually present what they learned at their internship, and they connect what they learned at their internship to their regular class content. So how does this field relate to mathematics? How does it relate to history? What's the scientific perspective on it? So we actually have that. We also have a teachers academy at our school that's creating a pipeline for students who want to be teachers. Once they get out of college, they start taking courses now, and then once they graduate high school, they get a scholarship to one of the teacher education programs at one of the colleges close by. And then once they go through that program, they get a contract with the district, to teach. So that just started last year. We also have, I know in another school, there's a business academy. There's a performing arts academy at our school. So we have various CTE academies throughout the district, and this is something that's been reintroduced because we had it in years prior, but for some reason they took it away. I guess the emphasis on why I don't know the reason why exactly, but they took away the CTE schools and academies, for some time, and then now they're making a reemergence in the district.
So do these kids have to take the state U.S. Constitution, or was that in 8th grade, or is that a requirement in high school as well? In terms of them being immigrants and just in the country, how do they get an understanding of how our Constitution work, our amendments, especially now what's going on in current events?
Right.
I imagine that's got to line up somehow, some way, with the current state of affairs in America with the election coming up. So how does that dialogue?
Well, that definitely falls into the U.S. history courses that all the students take. So so all the students, they're taking 4 years of history. So as freshmen, they're taking world history. Sophomores during U.S. History 1, that's the course in which they're reading the Constitution, and then they revisit it during senior year when they take civics. So there's actually a civics semester during the senior year history course. So I believe it's split up between civics and financial literacy, or financial literacy and economics, I guess, depending on the time of the semester and the teacher. They'll either be taking civics or economics, or civics and financial literacy. So they have those two times during sophomore year in that first U.S. history class, and then again a senior year when they take civics.
Your students, do they understand the magnitude of what's going on right now in the United States? Even with Ruth Ginsburg passing away, and then with the the decision with Breonna Taylor. I mean, how do these young minds come into your classroom and deal, or maybe they don't deal, maybe they don't even understand the magnitude of what's happening between these 3 things going on right now with the pandemic, the blatant execution of innocent people that look like us, and then just along with the agenda that's been pushed upon us in terms of our freedom and tolerance. Do your students come in and just naturally dialogue about those certain things, or is that something that doesn't happen because they are pretty much immigrants and pretty much new to America, or do they really get it because they have seen other parts of the world, and this is
right?
more understandable to them from an intelligence and a social standpoint.
Yeah, they do. And, and again, the kids that I'm currently working with, these are top tier cream of the crop students. I just found out that one of our sophomores is actually number one in the class right now. So yeah, and this is out of maybe about like 500 or so students in the class. So they get it, and they're able to draw parallels and connections between what's going on here in the country of their origin. So they're drawing, so some students, they're drawing connections between President Trump and the president of Brazil. And talking about how they're similar in their perspectives. So not only do they get it, but
that they didn't have in the country they came from, that they came
right.
to get more freedom is the reason why they're here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So not only do they get it, they also ask a lot of questions. Which is always a good sign. They ask lots of questions, especially our sophomores. Our freshmen, I guess they're still a little bit shy, new to the school, so they're much more quiet. But our sophomores, they ask lots of questions about what's going on, about how things work in this country. Especially in as it relates to politics and social issues and the pandemic. Actually, some of our students, they're starting to form their political identities in our classes. So they're starting to form their values and form an idea of what's important to them or what they're passionate about. I have one student who aligns with a lot of conservative ideals. So, well, we have conversations about those things.
It's probably one of the most important times where you probably had any more time than ever. Then you have people probably that looking at all different types of ideals, from Marxism to fascism, to democracy, republic. Because the world is so wide open now, and a lot of policies, communism and stuff, seem like they can be more prevalent and more viable, which in our estimation, they're not at the end of the day. But that person is thinking and engaged, and they've been stimulated, which is awesome. So that means that puts you in a critical role, and almost in a sense, you kind of got to be agnostic to just give them freedom of thought, and not to try to gear them and create a thought
exactly
for them. But you got to stimulate it at the same time. So how do you do that without having a biased or indirectly, steering them in a pathway that they are not, wise or haven't built the capacity mentally to go on their own? Because I remember being in high school, man. I asked a bunch of questions myself, and I always, was a student. So, and that's got to be great for a teacher to have somebody that's always, coming up with a conversation and thinking and reading books. So how do you navigate that and not have your thought system, affect theirs from a standpoint that, lead them in a direction that probably is a good.
Right. Yeah. So the idea is definitely to teach the students how to think rather than what to think. Mm-hmm. So it starts with the materials, that we use, because we know that a lot of the textbooks and the curriculums that are being distributed, the stakeholders behind those companies and some of those companies, textbook companies and curriculum makers, they have political leanings and agendas and biases. So, it starts there with my co-teacher and I, sifting through the materials and looking for, any biases in the materials that we're using. Right. I remember my co-teacher, he was telling me one story about when he was in the history department meeting, and and a bunch of the teachers were using a curriculum that was either sponsored or backed by the Koch brothers. and then he spoke up about it in the meeting, and then everyone was kind of silent, and looking at him like they didn't have anything to say. So
the Koch brothers are, you better go out. They are some devious individuals.
right, yeah. So we start with looking at the material, and then we do our classes are largely discussion based too. So we do give them material to read, but we also spend a lot of time discussing the material and actually encouraging the students to disagree with each other, respectfully. So that's another thing that we do, and also we also try to stretch the kids to think about why they have a certain opinion about a certain topic. So what's the why behind it? And then again, how do you agree or disagree with this point of view? Why or why not? Do you notice any biases in this reading material, in any of the writer's biases? Does the writer make any fallacies? In their writing?
Pushing propaganda or
exactly, propaganda.
Peacefully disagree with people to agree to disagree peacefully. Instead
right.
Of seeing that's being pushed upon our nation right now, where this violence, that's unnecessarily being sprung upon us, that you react from an intellectual capacity, but you react from a savage capacity, and that's unfortunate, because that can affect many a young lives, that they'll start migrating towards that narrative. If I don't like or agree with somebody, let me just go kill.
Right.
And that's unfortunate. That's the thing that's a damaging adverse effect on a young mind.
Yeah.
Right now, what's going on in this society.
Yeah, and even going back to the material. So if we're not looking at a source that we can see as mostly objective, if we're giving them something to read or a video that backs up a certain position, we'll also give them the opposing view too. So we always try to present the students with multiple perspectives as well. I remember last year when I was doing a lesson on I think it was Christopher Columbus. I think I was doing a lesson on Christopher Columbus.
Interesting.
I gave them opposing viewpoints. so I gave the viewpoint of the side that doesn't consider Columbus a hero, more as a murderer, destroyer. But I also made it clear to him that there are people who sees Christopher Columbus as a hero, and this is the two sides, and these are the reasons why one side sees him as a hero and why one side doesn't see him as a hero. And which side do you think is correct?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably created a powder keg.
Right. Yeah.
At the end of the day, man, that's amazing. So when people mention your high school, what is your high school known for? All high schools are known for something, be it athletics, be it languages, being academics. When they mention your high school, what's the first thing that people in the surrounding area would say your high school is known for?
Well, I don't know if this is the first thing, but it's definitely one of them. It's definitely athletics. We offer numerous sports, but I would say one of the most successful sports is our boys basketball team is one of the best in the state. Not this past year, but the year before, they went all the way to the tournament of champions, in which all of the schools in the state are playing against each other, and they were the only. And this is also another testament to how good this team is. They were the only public school team that made it to the tournament, or made it to the end of the tournament. All the rest of the schools were parochial schools that recruit their players. So athletics is definitely one. Basketball, soccer, baseball. Those teams are definitely top notch. We're also the largest high school in the city with over 2,100 students. So a lot of students want to go to that high school. It's one of the best high schools in the city. They're probably the best public school in the city, because of course we have parochial schools and charter schools. Was it?
I said, is it a relatively newer school? When was this school established? Or
This school was established in like 1911, I think. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not a new school. Yeah, it's as a matter of fact, the building it's still the same building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, the building is rough. Building's a little rough.
It's starting to sound like it was some new school that been built for about 20 years. But
Oh no, this school's been around for 100+ years. Yeah. So that, and then also we have the what's the word I'm looking for? The reputation. We have the reputation of being, the comprehensive high school with the magnet touch. So this isn't a magnet high school, but we have a lot of the programs and features of a magnet school, such as those advanced courses and those CTE academies and elective courses and things of that nature. So also known for that as well.
so is your school a test-in school or lottery school, or you just have to live in the district?
Well, the way that the enrollment has changed, over the recent years. Before, you had to live in that neighborhood, but now it's a universal enrollment system in which you can, you have to enroll to school, each year, but you get to choose which schools you want to attend. So you give your top picks, and of course, if there's
lottery when you pick your top picks.
I'm not exactly sure of how the students get matched with their schools, but but I guess as long as there's room, you can live on the other side of the city and go to a school on the opposite side of the city now, because of this universal enrollment system that the district is using now, and that's available for all of the district schools and the charter schools. So all those schools are a part of that system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
dude, that's awesome. I mean, you getting the chance to work with young, bright minds on a regular basis. And it's good that this was a open topic of discussion, because we end up talking about the stuff that's most important, because those people that you're teaching, they're going to be the leaders of the future of our world, and especially the impact on our society here in America. And maybe we can diffuse, this idiocy, this hatred, this vitriol, just because of the color of people's skins and not from the content of their character. So I'm excited about learning about that. I knew you were an English teacher, but I didn't know you were doing so much more, and you were having an impact over so many different ethnicities, races, and stuff like that. That's more important, because seeing a highly educated, black man that's doing productive things in the world that will give them the right narrative versus contrarian, bad narrative, which is a false reality
Right.
So man,
Yeah.
my cap off to you for that, brother, because that's most important.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And going off of that too, I'm also there for those handful of black students, who feel, a little isolated, because they don't see, think about it this way. Out of all the classes that I have, I only maybe have, maybe one or two at the most black students in my class, and that's one of their concerns is that, hey, I'm the only black student in this class. I don't really have anybody that looks like me or can completely relate to my experiences. So I'm also there for those students too.
Complete opposite, man. When you told teaching, inner city, I automatically assumed that the school was like 90%, black.
Yeah, that was the case. That was the case in my first teaching job when I was working in the charter school. That was the percentages. It was actually 93% black, 7% Hispanic and Latino, to be exact. When I was in my first teaching position at the charter school.
That leads to a question. So that keynote speaker gig that you set me up for this summer, SYUP, what is the layout from ethnicity part of that program? Since you cleared my mind on that misperception I had about your school. Is that the same thing? Is the makeup primarily a little bit of everything, or is it primarily black students?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not very familiar with the program. I just happen to be friends with someone who works with that agency within the district. So I can't really say what the breakdown is, but I would assume that it's a mixture, because when we were on that event, I actually saw one of my students in the room. Yeah.
You saw your students. So again,
a couple of my students actually. Yeah, current and former.
That's a lesson to learn. Always ask, hey man, what is it you do? Who are the people that you teach to? Who are the people you work with? Don't automatically make an assumption that they look like you or they don't look like you without asking the question. I mean that. I'm like, man, yeah, I'm like almost dumbfounded because I'm opposite. So this is just woke me up in a sense to say, hey, that impact is being made, and that's even more important given the state of affairs right now.
Yeah, that's just one high. That's just the one high school out of the rest of the city. The rest of them, are predominantly black, but it's that one high school because it's in that neighborhood.
You're in Newark, and
you
think Newark is a
right. Yep.
community.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Oh man, learn something new every day, man. So what else to close this out? What else is on our mind that you want to talk about to close out? Because man, this has been a great topic. This is actually very refreshing.
Yeah. It has. I didn't know what direction it was going to go in. I mean, when I think about all the other things that are going on, I have opinions on them, but I really don't have a desire to talk about. I kind of want to avoid those things, such as what's going on with the celebrities, what's going on with the protests, what's I don't. Well, I would like to talk about the playoffs, but I haven't been following the playoffs really. Growing up, I was really into sports, but as I got older and I started getting into other things, I kind of fell off with keeping up with sports. But I played sports all through, up all the way into high school. Basketball, baseball, soccer, track. all of that, but after high school and into my college years, my interest in sports, started to fade a little bit. But But hey, if I'm somewhere, if I'm at if I'm at someone's house or if I'm at a restaurant or a bar and the game is on, I'm definitely going to be locked in. But I always don't consciously think that the game is on. Let me go turn it on when I'm at home. So you can so if you want to talk about about the playoffs, anything interesting happening with the playoffs?
Nah, not actually. I mean, I actually just started watching a couple of games. It ain't nothing major. It's all predictive. But
Yeah.
this also just shows that sports are not nowhere near as important as they have been pushed on us for the past
Hmm.
50, 60 years. And especially, unfortunately, in our community, what's more important is, all the books behind you and getting those open minds. It's like a parachute. You don't open it up, you don't use it, you don't open up a book, you don't engage yourself, and you don't start becoming a deep thinker and a constructive thinker. I think that's the most important message that we have to continue to convey to our children. And then those children become adults, and those adults can help level the playing field and treat everybody from a meritocracy standpoint and from a goodness in their heart.
Yeah.
That's my closing message tonight. 'Cause,
Yeah, and I would say that's especially important now because we seem to have a lot more distractions than ever. A lot of these events are happening at the same time. Even with the sports, we have football, basketball, and baseball all going on at the same time. Yeah,
and hockey.
yeah, hockey. Yeah, hockey's starting up.
So you basically have been put into a social experiment so that they can come out and create a new narrative
Hmm.
for the elite to start making
Yep.
limmies think a different way. That's the sad part about it, man. And people who don't have the uh, elevation to think at a higher level, they just don't get it.
Yeah, they get caught up in the whirlwind. you
Right.
know.
It's
Yep.
not by happen chance. All this
Yeah,
stuff that's happening is not by accident. It's gonna come
right.
here where there's gonna be a whole different narrative. It's gonna be the new normalcy, which is not normal. For me, sometimes like I say, man, you just got to think about the positive things in life, make sure
Exactly.
and keep it moving, bro. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
At the end of the
yeah,
day.
yes. So yeah. Definitely got to think about the positives. Definitely got to take time to unplug from the negativity. You're not obligated to. Of course, we want to be responsible adults and responsible citizens and be aware of what's going on in the world, but we're not obligated to be constantly plugged into the latest news or what's going on 24 hours a day. It's okay to unplug and to not be totally aware of what's going on. You don't have to expel so much energy into it either,
Yep.
because when you really think about it, a lot of the things that are going on, whether it's in the news, politics, celebrities, athletics, it doesn't really matter, in the grand scheme of things, and it doesn't have much impact on you in your own life, and that's going to be a topic as we get closer to this election.
Oh
I,
yeah.
I'm gonna pose a question to everyone out there. Um, how much does it really matter who's the president in your personal life, especially if you're a person like DJ who's financially free? How much does it really matter? Like, it might have some impact, but
Well, yeah. I
in the
mean,
grand scheme, how much does it really matter?
at the end of the day, hey man, vote based on how it lines up with your God, your
Hmm.
family, and your business. I mean, that's the way you should vote. I mean, at the end of the day, because that person in that White House can make a adverse effect, or they can make a positive effect. But most importantly, you got to do your due diligence. You
Right.
got you got to do the research, and don't just listen to the propaganda that's being pushed out to you. But that's a topic for the next
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Coming up. Yep.
Very important conversation that
Yeah. That's the
we trying
preview.
to dialogue toward. It's going to be a game changer, or it's going to continue to push us further, down this rabbit hole that we didn't want to go down. That's,
Mm-hmm.
that's the reality, and that's most important for them children you're in front of on a day-to-day
Exactly.
basis, man. So,
Mm-hmm.
yep. So you're right, man. So hey, dude, man, this has been an awesome dialogue, and
Indeed.
man, yeah, we couldn't have came up and talked about a better subject tonight. So it's exciting. It's always
Yep.
positive, and man, like I always say, I want people to have a pom lifestyle, baby. I want to have plenty of money and peace of mind, and most importantly, have peace of mind. Because
Mm-hmm.
in this day and age, if you don't know who you are, then you will fall for anything. At the end of the day, that's the sad reality. So I would encourage people again, two things. Watch the documentary Capital, and watch that movie Social, Dilemma. I mean, it will open up your mind and let you see what the real, person is behind the curtain.
There you go. All right. All right. Well, so we got the pom pom lifestyle. The only part left is to wish you to join us on the Beaches of the World Club. So come join us. We would love to have you.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And then also too, man, we had a great webinar this past week on the 23rd. When it was Spash Pack. We had a lot of consultations that we had requested. We helping a lot of people out, man, and I'm excited. That's one thing I'm always excited about is that we're getting inside these households, Nick, and we're making an impact on people's lives that's gonna matter for generations.
Yeah, where it matters. Exactly.
At the end of the day, when you can talk to somebody about their emergency fund, their retirement, their legacy for their children, their Roth IRA, and get them right and on the right pathway, dude, that's the most impactful thing that you can do, because there's three phases of life you go through. You go from a struggle, which is coming out of school or getting some type of skill to start earning a living. Then you get good at that, and you become successful. You start having financial wherewithal that you can enjoy quality of life that America has promised you. But then most importantly, you can become significant is what you do. You start giving back and making impacts on other people's lives. And that becomes transformational wealth. And then not always is money, but it's information that you can use to make quality decisions, because you know yourself and you understand how the system works. So that's what I want to leave the message to. And I want to shout out to everybody that's been a participant in our program. I want to shout out to all the people who have worked with us that's helped these people get on the right path to success. And again, like we said, hey man, wish you a pom lifestyle, plenty of money, peace of mind, and come join us on the Beaches of the World Club.
All right, everybody. Have a good night.